What's up guys, my name is Marco Landry and today I'm super excited because I finally get the chance to take my bodywork, my raised bodywork that was just painted recently, and I'll be able to assemble everything on the bike and see how it's going to look like. Once this is done, the next step will be really to customize the bike and make it my own, having that look that I like. So there's a few things that I'll be doing. I have a few different seat pads and I'll decide which one fits better. So we'll install the seat pad. I have some Stomp grips as well that will help me when I'm leaning the bike to make sure I can hold on to the side of the bike properly. And I have a tank pad as well. And most importantly, I have nameplates. I have decals. Like I have a bunch of decals that I've accumulated over the last 10 years. So now it's really about assembling everything and putting a final touch so that the bike is going to be something that is my own and it reflects my look and what I like. So not very technical today. It's more about the final touch on the bike and how to install the decals and the tank pads and all that good stuff. So hopefully that's something of interest. If it is, stay right there and we're going to start right now. So in terms of tools, that's probably going to be one of the easiest episodes that you've ever seen me do because we don't need a lot of stuff. Scissors will be helpful, a really sharp X-Acto knife or really good razor blade. You can use one of these. This is a squeegee that allows you to push the air out of the decals or the stickers. I have a soft side and a plastic side. I quite often prefer to use a credit card, but this is a really good option as well. You can find those on Amazon for very cheap, by the way. And masking tape to put the stickers in place. And measuring tape will be helpful. And if you're measuring something that's going to be a weird shape, I like to have this gizmo. I don't even know what they're called, but I think they're used for drawing mostly. And I normally take the shape of the surface that I want, and then I'll put masking tape around it, make a mark, straighten up, measure that distance, and I know when I go on the other side of the bike that I can replicate the same thing. So you don't need to have this. I mean, there's different ways of doing this. I just like it because I've been doing this like this for years. The material that I'm going to use today, I've already mentioned this during the intro, but I have the Stomp grips here that I will use to put on the side of the bike so that my legs can hold on better to the side of the bike when I'm leaning the bike over. So I've accumulated different kits over the year. I think this kit is specifically for the, this is for the R6. So I might be able to leverage some of these parts. If not, this kit is for the R3, but this is for the OEM bodywork and not for the Sharkskins bodywork. So I might have to mix and match these and cut them to the appropriate dimensions, but I'm gonna definitely install those as well because they are great at the track. And I will also be installing the tank pad. The nice thing about the tank pad is that if you have a zipper or if you are hugging your tank quite a bit, this will take the majority of the impact and will prevent your tank from being scratched. So I really like these. Again, not mandatory, but in my case, the way the design is for the tank on the R3, that's going to be some extra protection that will definitely make a difference. I have a few different options for seat pad. This is the one that goes on the R6. I also have one from Graves for the R3 as well, but they're not going to be the exact size for my bodywork, so I'll probably have to do some trimming. So we'll do this over the next few minutes as well. And finally, here you can see I have different decals that I've accumulated over time. So I'm gonna mix and match some of these decals. You can see here I have different sponsor decals. I have the Monster decals. All my bikes have the Monster Energy type of team, so I'm probably going to reuse the same look and feel again. I have nameplates here that I've accumulated over the years as well. These are from Factory FX. I normally really like them, but the last time I ordered them, the website is a bit confusing and I was trying to order something that would have a very little white and that came up. So that looked like L. I didn't really like this at all. So I've contacted Factory FX. They redid it for free, and this came up after that. So this looks a bit better. And that's not exactly what I was looking for, because my bike is black and I didn't want to have that white background around it. So I'm probably going to keep this for something else. So what I did is I designed my own nameplates or number plates. I'm going to use those instead because these are custom and I've designed them myself. So it's hard to see now because the transfer tape is on, but once I apply them, you'll see what it looks like. And that's super cool because now this is my design. I did it. It's going to be one of a kind, and it was not too bad to do this. I've used a combination of Canva and Photoshop to finalize this, and the print shop here in town that did it were really great, and they're using some high strength vinyl, so it should resist the crappy weather and the bugs and all that good stuff. So that's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to see this on the bike as well. And as you can tell, there's a bunch of decals here, so I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do. So over the next few minutes, I'll sit down, I'll probably have a beer, I'll digest this, and I'll figure out what's going to work well. There's one quick thing I forgot to mention here as well, is that I've also used this quite a bit on my previous bikes. This is called racer's tape, I believe. Yeah, this is racer's tape. And that tape was originally designed to protect the blades from the helicopters. So this is super resistant tape and very thin. I normally use this under the bottom tube of my mountain bike, so that when I go riding in the dirt and the rocks, this tape will do such a great job at protecting your tube or your frame that I've decided I would use this on my motorcycles as well. And I've already installed this on the back of the bike. There's an area where when I put the tail of the bike, it always scratches the plastic and the frame. So the bodywork is really tight, so I have to bend it over and it's always scratching. So I put this where the rubbing was happening, and it's been great because now I'm going to prevent all these scratches from happening when I try to force my bodywork on the bike. And I'm also going to use this most likely in front of the bike because when I put my stand, I always bang my fairing, my front fairing, so this should prevent the scratches, and then it's easy to replace it with a new piece when they're damaged or destroyed. So I highly recommend that you look into this if you have areas on your bike that are getting a lot of abuse, because this is a small investment that makes a big difference and preserves the bodywork of your bike for a long time. So that's it for the racer's tape. Welcome to my living room, guys. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna now focus on assembling or sticking the seat pad on the tank and the seat portion, and I'll have a few options here. So my first option was to reuse or use one of the R6 pad that I had for my Woodcraft / armor body kit. So that's one option. It's a bit thicker. And my second option, which is thinner, is the Graves seat pad for the R3. However, this is not going to be a perfect fit. Even though it's thinner, I think it's going to work well with this. I'll still need to cut this out and make sure that it's going to sit properly on this, because I have three small holes in the back here, so it's going to be hard to see on the camera with the black in the background here, but there's three different holes here. These holes are there for my quick release fasteners that will just attach this portion of bodywork to the tail of the bike. So I'm saying all of this because the seat pad will probably be overlapping with these holes, so I'll have to do some trimming. And also the fact here that the side here has to like flip down here, and with time, I have this on my R6, and even though you glue them in place, they always lift up, and I put a lot of pressure with my legs here, so that normally gets destroyed almost instantly. So I'm going to try to cut this a bit more narrower towards the inside so I don't have to curve this down to glue it in place. So that's what I'm going to be doing next few minutes, and we'll see how it's going to turn out. So in order to do this, I have a few rulers to measure. I got some masking tape to mark everything, a Sharpie, and if you don't have this in your garage, this is Velcro tape. So you can use this for pretty much anything, and I use this all the time to attach different ropes or extension cords. And once the seat's in place, I'm just going to wrap this around, and that's going to hold the seat in place, or that pad in place, to make sure that it sticks properly on the bodywork. So I'll use this during the last step of that process, but this is really helpful. So if you don't have this in your garage, get some of it because you'll definitely use it. And normally what I do is just I cut to the proper length, and then I use it to wrap wires and to hold stuff in the garage. So super helpful, and definitely going to be helpful for this part, because your alternative for this is to use some tape and just tape around it. And it's always a bit of a messy process because it's sticky, and yeah, I just prefer to have the Velcro. So if you don't have the Velcro, regular tape or electrical tape will do the trick as well. So let's get started on this one. All right, folks, so I think that was the toughest part here. So what I did is I placed the seat pad where I think it should be. So you can see that the front here, there's not going to be a big curve. So it should be fairly easy to stick this there and make it hold properly in place with the adhesive in the back. And where I have to do a lot more work is in the back here. So you can see that the pad exceeds the fiberglass quite a bit. So I drew a line, and I've drew a little dot on that paper, or that sticky paper in the back as well. So now the 3 holes have been marked, and I'm just going to cut this out properly. And I also have to leave enough space so that I have these quick release fasteners that will be able to grab the 2 pieces of fiberglass at the top. So I'll have to have a small round opening at the top here, so something that's going to go like this, where I can easily access these fasteners. It's going to make more sense next few minutes, so I'll go off camera, do some cutting and some trimming, and I'll be back shortly. That was a lot more difficult than I was expecting. So you can see here that I've reassembled everything. So I have the Velcro around the seat to hold it in place properly. And I have little quick grips here as well to make sure that everything's going to stay nice and tight. However, my word of advice to you is that when you do this, just having a regular sharp blade is not going to do the trick. So what I did initially is that I took a blade and started cutting just with the blade, like going really slowly. It was okay for the straight areas or the straight lines. However, I have a few areas where I was going to just do a little curve where the fasteners are going to be. And oh my gosh, that was so complex. It was not smooth at all. So I did the two outside area, and I managed to do something decent. So I didn't want to risk it for the middle part. So what I did is I tried different things on the excess that I had, and found out that the best thing to cut through this is a blade, a really sharp blade, and heat it up with a blowtorch until it's red hot, and then it will go through like butter. So that was the only way for me to shape this properly and have a nice rounded area for the fasteners. So not too concerned about this, because as I mentioned earlier, I mean, I destroyed these seat pads within weeks or months. So I know it's going to look like crap in a few weeks anyway. So the next time I have to redo it, I'll know exactly how to do it, and it's going to be a lot smoother. So those are my words of advice. For now, I'm going to leave everything like this for at least 24 hours, and I'll resume tomorrow morning, and we'll start applying the decals on the rest of the bodywork. So see you in the morning. All right, guys, I'm back. So I've been thinking about this all night, and now I know exactly what I'm going to end up doing on the bike. Before I do so, I just want to talk a little bit about the process of installing some decals. There's different type of decals. You'll have just your regular sticker that you just like peel and stick somewhere else. So that's fairly easy, especially if they're small. You don't have to do anything specific. You just eyeball it and stick it onto your bodywork. The part where it gets a bit more complex is if you have some vinyl with a transfer tape. So you can see here, there's a backing paper, there's a transfer tape, and the sticker is in the middle. So normally what happens is that you have something like this and you peel it off, and you can glue it on your bodywork by just pressing it with a squeegee or with your fingers. And the process for this normally is that there's a few different methods. So you can use some masking tape, and you can have the hinge method, or you basically simulate an hinge, and you just glue or stick your decal like this, and then you can simply remove your backing paper. Normally you go at an angle like this, and now you can just flip it back down and just put it in place with your finger, make sure it's good. And after that, you take your squeegee, or you take your credit card, and just push the air bubbles out, and you always go from the middle to the outer edge. And once everything is done, you can simply remove your masking tape and your transfer tape. When you do this, you want to make sure that you have a small angle where you fold the paper or the transfer tape on top of itself, and you go at an angle to remove that transfer tape, and you go very slowly until you have everything removed. If there are any bubbles left, you can take the soft part of your squeegee here and press it out, and that's it. That's the process to install that vinyl decal onto your bodywork. If you have something a bit wider, you can use masking tape to stick it on both sides in the middle instead. And when you do this, it allows you to lift this part and then cut this here, apply it, and then do the same thing on the other side. It's a lot easier to glue it this way or stick it this way. All right, so in addition to having the hinge method and the center tape option here, you can apply those decals with what they call the wet method and the dry method. So the dry method is basically what we just did there. Wet means that you would spray some water with a little bit of soap onto that surface, and you would spray it behind your decal as well, and it allows you to move the decal as you're trying to find the final resting place. And then after that, you just squeegee the water out of it, and you apply a bit of heat to it, and that's it. In my case, because my decals are so small, and the shape of the motorcycle is not super complex in this case, so I'm going to stick with the dry method. But obviously, if you have something a bit more complex, a big decal, then I would strongly recommend that you consider using the wet method, because that's probably going to make your life a lot easier. The work in the garage is almost done, but for the lower fairing, I always think it's a bit easier to do it sitting down. Basically, what I'm going to do now is put the number plate here, and I have a few more decals put on the side. And you've seen the process earlier. It's not super complex. What takes the most time basically is to find the spot where you want your decal to be, and after that, make sure that it's leveled and it's centered and it looks good. So I'll measure from the bottom and make sure that it's at a decent height. So I'm just going to put a bit of tape here, and I'm going to use the hinge method to make sure that I can flip it up and peel the back off plate or the back off sticker. All right, so that's my spot here. I think that's going to be perfect right there. So what you want to do again is make sure that your top piece of tape here is holding this properly in place. Then you flip it up and you peel the back. You slowly peel the back, I should say. Make sure that the decal is not sticking to the back piece of tape or paper here. And once this is done, you simply flip it on your side. Make sure your tape is still straight and gently pull down and glue the top and make your way down. Once this is done, you can take your squeegee and go from the middle towards the outside. Push all the air bubbles out. And I'll remove the tape here. And just keep pushing out a few times until that decal is properly sticking to the back and making sure there's no more bubbles left under the decal. And again, you don't need to have a squeegee. If you have a credit card or any type of plastic card, that's going to do the job as well. The nice thing about these is that the soft or that felt part at the top here allows you to squeegee if you don't have a transfer tape, and it won't damage your paint. So I've never used these before. This is the first time I'm using it, and I'm really liking it. It's a few dollars on Amazon, so definitely worth purchasing in my opinion. All right, so once this is done, you simply take your transfer tape and you just simply pull at an angle to make sure that your decal won't lift up while you're pulling. And you simply take your time and make sure that nothing is moving and that your decal is staying in place. And just like that, it looks amazing. So there's no air bubbles and it's pretty sharp and pretty straight. So this is what it's gonna look like, guys. So you can see that I have the air side that's been finished already. So I'm gonna replicate the same thing on this side, and I'll be back in a few minutes to install the tank pad. So don't go away, and I'll be back shortly. So what I did is I put some masking tape where my knees were touching the bodywork when I was sitting on the bike. So I took the bike off the stands, put it on the ground, and sat on the bike, and my knees, when I'm in a normal riding position, are touching ear, and when I'm leaning the bike, I'm pushing my butt back on the seat, and my knees are usually touching between ear and ear. So the pad, the bigger pad will go ear, and the smaller pad will go ear. This small pad is very small. I might actually install one like this. This is from my R6 kit. So I have the R3 and the R6 kit, and I got different pieces. I'm trying to mix and match because this is designed for the OEM bodywork. So what I'm gonna end up doing is I'll probably put this part here, and I'll put the other part from the R6 here, so it gives me a bit more adherence and a larger surface to grab with my knees. So the next step will be to put this here. I'll tape this in the middle, make sure it's nice and solid at the right location. I'll flip this part up, remove the paper here, cut half of it, and glue this first part, and then I'll lift the other part, remove the paper, and glue that second part. So that should work out quite well. And the way I want to do this here, like the Stompgrip writing is facing up. I could put it the other way around, but I think it looks nicer if you can see the Stompgrip on this side. So I'll put it with the letters obviously facing the right direction. And I want to have something like this here. I just want to make sure it's going to fit properly, and I'll be able to mold this properly when I glue it in place. or stick it in place, I should say. Okay, so I think that's going to be the final resting place right here. It fits okay. It takes the shape of the body quite well, and I think it's going to be the prime location for my knees and my leg to be able to hold on to it properly. So I'll put a bit more tape just to make sure that it doesn't fall down when I start trying to cut it and flip it. So I'm just going to remove the transfer paper now. Alright, so this stuff is super sticky, guys. So when you do this, you have to be very mindful that you don't want to let it touch the plastic or the fiberglass for no reason, because you're going to have a hard time pulling it out. So this is really something that you want to take your time, align it properly, press the air bubbles out, and make sure that you get it right the first time, because it's really hard to come back and peel it once it's touching the bodywork. Okay, so I think that overall it's pretty solid now. I'm still going to apply just a little bit of heat in a few minutes, make sure that it takes that proper shape and that glue really sticks properly. But overall, I think this is fairly good right here. So the next step will be this little part here, and I'm still debating between the two parts if I should go with this one here, the bigger one, or the smaller one will be sufficient. I think actually that I might stick with the small one, and if it doesn't work out, then I'll replace it with a bigger one. Alright, so now I'm just going to apply a small amount of heat on it, make sure that the glue is nice and soft and it's going to adhere properly. And you don't want this to become hot. You just want it to be warm, so that the glue is gonna be softer and it's easier to push the air bubbles out. You really want to push on the edges once you start from the middle towards the outside, and once you're at the edge, you really want to press that edge, and you'll see a little bit of glue just like bubbling up, or the tape just like showing up on the sides. So that's really what you want to see, because it means that the adherence is right at the edge of that Stompgrip. Alright, so that's the final product, guys. I'm going to do the other side, but it's fairly easy, as you can tell. You just have to really take your time and press on it quite a bit, make sure there's no bubble or air pockets underneath. And it might not look super nice, but it will definitely make a difference when you're riding, because you'll have this extra grip when you're trying to lean the bike and you're at an angle. You'll be able to hold on to something, because this bodywork, it's super slippery in this case. So the OEM tank is a bit better because the plastic is a bit more grippy. But this one, without this, would be quite a challenge to ride, let me tell you. So that was it, guys. That's the process to install the decals on your bike. and also the Stomp grips and the seat. Nothing very complex. You just need to be organized, have the proper tools, and be extremely patient. I would also say that when you install decals like the monster claws here, the little legs are very dangly, and having transfer tape will definitely make your life easier. But even with the transfer tape, you are bound to mess up once in a while. So if you are ordering a decal set and you know that some pieces will be more difficult to install, order a few extra spares. So this way, if you mess up, you always have an option to reapply the part that you messed up. If you're wondering why I'm not clear coating this, is because if you have an incident or if you need to change the decals or something changes color or your bodywork cracks or you have a bad luck of some sort, having a clear coat makes it impossible to change the decals. If you have parts like the Yamaha emblem here that are much thicker, I would strongly recommend that you tape them so that they can stay nice and sticky to the surface for quite a few days, and make sure that it's warm enough in your garage or wherever you're going to do the work. Make sure that there's a lot of heat, and this way the decals will adhere much better. I guess the last thing I want to mention as well is that when you buy decals, spend the extra money and buy some good automotive quality decals. So that's it for me. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, as usual, reach out to me or post your comments below. So if the video was helpful, folks, please smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, that would be awesome. And until next time, stay safe, ride safe, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.